The email arrived on a Tuesday afternoon while I was contemplating which bill to pay, first with my dwindling bank account. 6 months unemployed after the publishing company I worked for downsized, my journalism degree gathering dust. The subject line was simple: staff position, confidential opportunity. I almost deleted it, assuming it was spam, but something made me open it. Following your application to Premier Estate Staffing, we have a temporary position available for a personal assistant judge household manager at a private residence in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. The principal is a high-profile individual requiring discretion. 3-month minimum commitment with potential for extension. Accommodation provided on premises. Respond within 24 hours, if interested. Only after responding did I receive the disclosure. The position was at Serena Williams' estate. The Serena Williams, 23-time Grand Slam champion, cultural icon, business mogul. I'd be required to sign extensive NDAs, undergo a background check, and start in 1 week. The salary was triple what I'd made in publishing. During the video interview, the head of household staff, Marcus, was direct. Ms. Williams values privacy, efficiency, and dedication. This isn't a typical 9 to 5. You'll be handling scheduling, correspondence, some light meal prep, managing deliveries, and special projects. Ms. Williams has a young daughter, an active business calendar, and training regimens. The household operates with precision. I nodded enthusiastically, trying to mask my nervousness. I'm organized, adaptable, and discreet, Marcus continued, his expression serious. One more thing, this position requires someone who understands that greatness isn't accidental, it's built in moments nobody witnesses. If you're looking to casually brush with fame, this isn't the position for you. I didn't understand the full meaning of his words then, but 1 week later, as I passed through the security gates of a stunning modernist estate nestled behind lush landscaping, I was about to learn exactly what he meant, and it would change everything I thought I knew about success. Chapter 2. First Impressions. My first day began at 6 a.m. sharp. Marcus showed me to my quarters, a surprisingly spacious guest suite detached from the main house, before leading me on a tour of the property. The estate was spectacular, but not ostentatious, with contemporary architecture featuring walls of glass that invited in Florida's abundant sunlight. Ms. Williams designed much of this herself, Marcus explained as we walked through the main living area with its soaring ceilings. She has an associate's degree in fashion design and an eye for detail. We passed a temperature-controlled display room housing what must have been millions of dollars worth of tennis trophies, yet it was tucked away rather than prominently showcased. The property included a state-of-the-art gym, an infinity pool overlooking a small lake, a home theater, and multiple office spaces equipped with video conferencing technology. But what struck me most was the children's wing, a thoughtfully designed space with educational toys, books in multiple languages, and walls adorned with inspirational women from history. Olympia's area, Marcus noted, referring to Serena's daughter. Ms. Williams is very intentional about her daughter's environment. At precisely 8:30 a.m., I finally met Serena herself. She walked into the kitchen where Marcus was, showing me the meal preparation protocols, and my carefully rehearsed professional greeting died in my throat. Television doesn't capture the physical presence Serena Williams commands. At 5'9", she isn't extraordinarily tall, but her athletic build and the confident way she carried herself made her seem larger than life. She wore simple training clothes, her hair pulled back, face free of makeup. "You must be Lauren," she said, extending her hand with a warm smile that immediately put me at ease. "Welcome to the team. I hope Marcus isn't overwhelming you with information." "Not at all, Ms. Williams," I replied, finally finding my voice. "I'm taking notes." "Good. Notes help. And please, call me Serena." She grabbed a pre-prepared protein shake from the refrigerator. "I have training until 11:30, then calls with my clothing line team at noon. I'll need the presentation materials from my email printed and ready in the North office." She delivered these instructions while simultaneously checking her phone and, sipping her shake, a picture of efficiency in motion. Before heading out, she paused. "One thing, Lauren. I believe in giving people room to succeed and fail on their own merits. I won't micromanage you, but I expect problems to be solved before they reach me. Can you handle that?" "Absolutely," I said with more confidence than I felt. She nodded and headed toward the gym. As she left, Marcus gave me a knowing look. First, rule of working for Serena. She doesn't have time for excuses, only solutions. Second rule, the work you don't see, the work that happens when no one is watching. That's what matters most around here. I would soon discover how prophetic those words were. Chapter 3. The schedule. Within my first week, I realized that Serena Williams's life operated with the precision of a Swiss watch, a meticulously calibrated system with interlocking parts that had to function perfectly together. Her daily schedule was a masterclass in time management. Wake up. Meditation and visualization, practice 5:30. 7. Suj. A.M. First training session, fitness, cardio, strength. 7. Ayalis. 8. A.M. Breakfast and time with Olympia. 8 A30, 11 I30. A.M. Tennis practice and technical training. 12 I-guides. 3 I p.m. Business meetings, calls. Design work 3 Zaost. 4 Jussi George p.m. Lunch and brief rest. 4 Subuas. 6 Kids p.m. Second training session or physical therapy 6 E Alns. 8 Gos p.m. Family time, dinner. 8 Oz. 10 Ao Yots p.m. Business reading, strategy planning. 10 Ao p.m. Bedtime routine. This schedule repeated with minor variations day after day. What amazed me wasn't just the intensity of the workload, but the seamless transitions between roles, from elite athlete to business executive to attentive mother, often within the same hour. How does she maintain this pace? I asked Diana. Serena's longtime personal chef, as we prepared a recovery meal after her morning training. 25 years of discipline, Diana replied, while precisely measuring quinoa. But don't let the schedule fool you. It's not about rigidity, it's about intentionality. Every minute serves a purpose. I noticed this intentionality in small moments. How Serena would fully engage with whoever was speaking to her, never glancing at her phone during conversations. How she'd set a timer for 15 minutes of stretching and use every second. How she'd transition from an intense business call to reading to Olympia without carrying the stress with her. By week 2, I had settled into my role, managing correspondence, organizing schedules, and handling household logistics. I took pride in anticipating needs before they arose, having presentation materials ready before she asked, ensuring her preferred recovery drink was waiting after training, preempting delivery issues. But I still hadn't understood Marcus's cryptic comment about greatness being built in unseen moments. That revelation would come in my 3rd week through pure accident in the pre-dawn darkness of the Florida morning. Chapter 4. The 4 a.m. discovery. It happened during my 3rd week. I was battling insomnia. The pressure of the job and my determination to perform perfectly had me overthinking every detail. Around 3:50 a.m., I decided to get up and review some business, correspondence that had been bothering me. As I walked through the darkened property toward the office where I kept my laptop, I noticed a faint glow coming from beneath the door of Serena's home studio, a space used for her clothing design work and business planning. Concerned that someone might have left lights on, wasting electricity in a household that was environmentally conscious, I quietly approached. That's when I heard it. Serena's voice, speaking softly but with intense focus. I froze, not wanting to intrude but confused about why she'd be up over an hour before her scheduled wake time. The door was slightly ajar, and through the small opening, I saw her sitting cross-legged on the floor surrounded by journals, books, and a large whiteboard covered with writing. "You've done this before," she was saying, eyes closed in concentration. "5th set, down a break, crowd against you. Found a way. Always found a way." She wasn't on the phone. She was talking to herself, or rather, she was practicing what I would later learn was her visualization routine. For nearly 20 minutes, I remained frozen in place, witnessing something I wasn't meant to see. Serena meticulously walked through scenarios, business negotiations, potential match situations, public speaking engagements, visualizing her responses, her body language, even her breathing patterns. Then, she opened a journal and began writing rapidly, filling page after page, with notes, diagrams, and what appeared to be affirmations. Next came a series of breathing exercises, followed by reviewing index cards containing what looked like quotations or mantras. This wasn't in her official schedule. This wasn't for sponsors or cameras or social media. This was Serena Williams doing the invisible work, the mental preparation that lay beneath the physical prowess the world celebrated. I quietly retreated to my quarters, ashamed of my accidental intrusion, but profoundly affected by what I'd witnessed. The next morning, Serena appeared at her scheduled 5 a.m. workout as usual, giving no indication she'd been up for hours already, mentally preparing for a day no different from any other. Over the following weeks, I became aware that this wasn't an isolated incident. 3 or 4 times each week, Serena was awake at 4 a.m., engaged in this private mental conditioning that no one saw and she never mentioned. And suddenly, Marcus's words made perfect sense. Greatness isn't built under the spotlights. It's constructed in the quiet darkness when no one is watching. Chapter 5. The Mental Game. My accidental discovery of Serena's pre-dawn ritual sparked my curiosity about the mental aspects of her training regimen. As I became more established in the household, I began to notice elements I had previously overlooked. In her personal library, an airy room with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, the collection revealed Amin constantly seeking growth. Beyond the expected sports psychology titles were books on business negotiation, Stoic philosophy, neuroscience, history, and biographies of everyone from Katherine Johnson to Marcus Aurelius. Many were dog-eared, underlined, with notes in the margins, in Serena's distinctive handwriting. This wasn't for show, these books were actively studied. One afternoon, while organizing some documents in her office, I noticed a leather-bound journal labeled simply Opponents. With some hesitation, Conscious. I might be overstepping. I glanced inside. What I found wasn't what I expected. Rather than notes about tennis rivals, each entry detailed a personal obstacle. Fear of letting people down. Perfectionism, paralysis. Outside noise. Self-doubt after losses. Under each opponent, Serena had written detailed strategies for confronting these mental challenges, like a general planning battle tactics. Some entries spanned years, with updates and revisions as she refined her approaches. A few weeks later, I got a more direct window into this mental conditioning. Serena was preparing for an important business presentation to potential investors for her venture capital firm. The night before, she asked if I could help her practice by listening to her delivery. "I need fresh ears," she explained, arranging her presentation materials in the home office. "Sometimes you get too close to your own words." For the next hour, I watched her deliver the presentation 3 times, each run-through followed by self-critique. So incisive, it took me aback. She wasn't concerned with superficial elements like how she looked or sounded. Her focus was on clarity, strategic persuasiveness, and anticipating objections. Between the second and third run-throughs, she closed, her eyes for about 2 minutes, engaging in what appeared to be a centering technique. When she opened them, there was a subtle but distinct shift in her presence, more grounded, more authoritative. "That's the reset," she explained, catching my curious expression. "I developed it during matches. When things start slipping, you need a way to clear the static and refocus. 3 deep breaths, specific visualization, anchor phrase. Works for business just as well as it does for tennis." She made it sound simple, but I was beginning to understand that this mental discipline, practiced daily for decades, refined through thousands of high-pressure situations, was as fundamental to her success as her legendary serve. And most of it happened when no cameras were rolling, no fans were watching, no commentators were analyzing. The world saw the physical specimen, the competitive fire, the clutch performances. but I was witnessing the hidden architecture that supported it all. Chapter 6. The Family Foundation. By my second month, I had settled into a comfortable routine. Within the household, Serena had come to trust my ability to handle complex logistics and occasionally included me in more personal aspects of the household operation. One such instance occurred when her husband, Alexis Ohanian, the co-founder of a Reddit, returned from a business trip. I expected their reunion to be brief given their packed schedules, but instead they blocked off an entire evening as sacred family time. No phones, no interruptions. Through the open patio doors, I glimpsed them playing with Olympia in the yard, both parents fully engaged, not a device in sight. Later, they moved to what the staff called the Vision Room, a creative space where the walls were covered with whiteboards, corkboards, and digital screens. The next morning, Serena asked me to digitize some notes from their family meeting. That's when I saw it. A family strategic plan that rivaled any corporate document I'd encountered. They'd outlined values, goals, challenges, and action steps across multiple life domains. Family connection, individual growth, business ventures, philanthropy, and legacy. We revisit this quarterly, Serena explained when she noticed my interest. Life moves fast, easy to get pulled in different directions if you don't intentionally align. I was struck by how their approach to family was as purposeful and strategic as their approach to business or athletics, not in a cold, calculating way, but with the clear-eyed recognition that meaningful relationships require investment and intentionality. This revelation deepened further when I helped organize a video call between Serena and her sister Venus. What began as scheduling coordination for a joint business appearance evolved into a strategy session for their joint ventures, then seamlessly transitioned to Venus offering technical advice on Serena's serve positioning. Still dropping your shoulders slightly on the toss, Venus noted, demonstrating the correct motion. Even in retirement, they were fine-tuning each other's games. The Williams sisters' bond, forged in childhood on Compton's public courts and strengthened through decades as both competitors and collaborators, was clearly a cornerstone of Serena's success system. Their conversation reflected a shorthand developed over a lifetime, able to communicate volumes with a raised eyebrow or a single phrase. After the call, Serena noticed me finalizing some correspondence nearby. "Family isn't just support," she said, nodding toward the screen where Venus's image had been. "It's foundation. Venus saw the path before I did. My parents created the blueprint. Now I'm doing that for Olympia." She paused, considering something. "People think it's about the individual, the single champion holding the trophy. But that's just the visible peak. Underneath is this whole mountain of people who shaped you, challenged you, believed in you before anyone else did." The mountain metaphor stayed with me. Each morning when I saw Serena practicing alone at 4 a.m., I now understood she wasn't really alone. She carried with her the accumulated wisdom, support, and expectations of her family, a powerful, invisible foundation beneath the visible icon. Chapter 7. The Recovery Protocol. My third month, an unexpected situation revealed another dimension of Serena's success system. She had pushed particularly hard during training, preparing for an exhibition match that, while not professionally consequential, mattered to her personally. That evening, I noticed her limping slightly as she returned from the tennis court. Within minutes, a precisely choreographed recovery operation swung into action, a routine I hadn't previously witnessed in its entirety. The physical therapist arrived first, followed by a sports medicine physician. The chef prepared specific anti-inflammatory foods while the household manager adjusted the evening schedule. Everyone moved with practiced efficiency, suggesting this protocol had been executed many times before. I was tasked with bringing Serena's recovery journals from her office, leather-bound, books where she tracked everything related to her physical condition. As I handed them over, I glimpsed pages of meticulous notes documenting how her body responded to different recovery methods, with timestamps, pain scales, and effectiveness ratings. For the next 3 hours, Serena underwent a comprehensive recovery regime, contrast therapy alternating hot and cold treatments, specialized massage, gentle movement patterns, and nutritional interventions, all precisely timed and sequenced. What struck me most was her attitude throughout. There was no complaint, no drama, no seeking of sympathy. She approached recovery with the same methodical focus she brought to training or business, as essential work requiring full engagement. Between treatments, she caught me watching the process with fascination. Most people think the training makes the champion, she said, wincing slightly as the therapist worked on a tight muscle. But recovery is where the adaptation happens, where the growth actually occurs. She gestured to the journals I had brought. 23 years of data in those books. How my body responds to different stressors, optimal recovery windows, nutrition timing. People see the power, the speed, the 23 slams. They don't see this part. I nodded, understanding more deeply now. The invisible work. Exactly. Everyone wants the result, but few want to master the recovery. They'll push themselves in training, sure. But this, she gestured to the comprehensive recovery setup around her. This requires more discipline than the training itself. Later that evening, after the medical team had left, I found Serena in her office reviewing the notes from the session, updating her recovery journals with observations and adjustments for future reference. Even in recovery, perhaps especially in recovery, nothing was left to chance or intuition alone. Every aspect was studied, documented, refined. Science and experience combined into a personalized system developed over decades. The next morning, she was back on the court at her usual time, moving without any visible limitation. To an observer unaware of the previous evening's extensive recovery protocol, it would have seemed like magic or genetic blessing. I now knew better. It was the result of invisible systems working perfectly behind the scenes. Chapter 8. The business mind, while most of the world knew Serena Williams as an athlete. First, my position in the household gave me unique insight into her identity as a business strategist and entrepreneur. By my third month, I had become more involved in supporting her business operations, particularly for her venture capital firm, Serena Ventures, and her clothing line, S by Serena. One Wednesday morning, I was asked to sit in on a strategy meeting, to take notes. The conference room adjacent to Serena's home office filled with her executive team, joining both in person and virtually. I expected to be a silent observer, but what unfolded surprised me. Serena didn't run her businesses like a celebrity attaching her name to projects others executed. She was deeply engaged in every aspect, asking incisive questions about customer acquisition costs, analyzing competitor positioning, challenging assumptions in financial projections. The ROI doesn't convince me, she said firmly about a potential investment opportunity her team was presenting. The TAM looks impressive on paper, but the execution plan doesn't address their regulatory hurdles in this space. I watched the team respond not with deference to her celebrity, but with substantive counter-arguments and data. This was clearly a regular dynamic. Serena expected to be challenged, wanted her thinking stress-tested. During a break, I helped organize some materials when Serena noticed me reviewing the investment deck with interest. "What do you think?" She asked unexpectedly. Caught off guard but not wanting to miss the opportunity, I offered my honest assessment. The technology is impressive, but their go-to-market strategy seems to assume customer education will happen organically. From my publishing background, I've seen how expensive customer acquisition can be when you're introducing novel concepts. Rather than dismiss my observation, she nodded thoughtfully. Good point. Make a note for us to dig deeper on their customer, education budget, and timeline assumptions. When the meeting resumed, she raised exactly this concern, leading to a productive exploration of previously unexamined assumptions in the business plan. Later that afternoon, I helped prepare for her virtual appearance at a business school where she was giving a guest lecture. As she reviewed her talking points, I gained further insight into her business philosophy. Athletic careers are finite, she explained while revising a slide, even the greatest careers. But what I've built in business doesn't have the same constraints. I'm creating multi-generational impact now. She showed me a section of her presentation about her investment thesis, focusing on founders from underrepresented backgrounds and companies addressing overlooked market needs. On the court, winning is zero-sum. Someone wins, someone loses, she continued. In business, especially the way I approach it, we can create scenarios where everyone wins. The founders, the consumers, the investors, society. That's actually more challenging and rewarding than tennis. In many ways. I began to understand that the same strategic thinking that made her a tennis legend was now being applied to building business ecosystems. The pattern recognition that helped her identify opponents' weaknesses now helped her spot market opportunities. The discipline that fueled thousands of practice hours now drove her to master complex financial models and market analyses. And just like her athletic career, much of this work happened out of public view. Late nights reviewing pitch decks. Early mornings analyzing market trends, countless hours of self-education in finance, technology, and business strategy. The world saw the celebrity entrepreneur. I was witnessing the methodical builder working diligently behind that public image. Chapter 9. The Vulnerable Champion. 2 events in my final month revealed the most surprising dimension of Serena's character, the carefully guarded vulnerability beneath her powerful public persona. The first occurred after a particularly difficult day of business setbacks. A major retailer had unexpectedly pulled out of carrying her clothing line's new collection, citing budget constraints. Simultaneously, a promising startup Serena Ventures had invested in announced it was shutting down. Expected Serena to power through these disappointments with her characteristic determination. Instead, after her last call of the day, I found her sitting quietly in her office, gazing out the window. "Tough day," she said when she noticed me in the doorway. "Yes," I replied. "Can I get you anything?" She gestured for me to enter and pointed to a chair. Actually, I could use a different perspective. Sometimes being Serena Williams means people tell you what they think you want to hear, not what you need to hear. For the next hour, we had the most authentic conversation I'd experienced. In the household, she spoke about the weight of always being expected to win, the challenge of knowing when to push through obstacles versus when to pivot, and how failure in business felt different from losing on the court. "On the court, there's clarity," she explained. "The ball is in or out, the score is definitive. In business, you can do everything right and still fail because of factors beyond your control. That ambiguity is still hard for me." She showed me a private journal, different from her training or recovery logs, where she processed these more personal struggles. The pages revealed a thoughtful, sometimes doubtful, inner voice that existed alongside the confident champion. The world knew. "People assume confidence means never having doubts," she said, closing the journal. "Real confidence is having the doubts, feeling the fear, and moving forward anyway." The second revealing moment came a week later, when Olympia fell ill with a high fever. Serena immediately cleared her schedule, cancelling business meetings and training sessions without hesitation. For the next 24 hours, she was simply a worried mother, pacing the hallway outside her daughter's room, consulting with doctors, and personally administering medicine and comfort. No entourage, no delegation of responsibility. During a quiet moment while Olympia finally slept, Serena joined me in the kitchen, where I was, preparing some tea. "You know what's harder than match point at Wimbledon?" she asked, exhaustion evident in her voice. "Watching your child suffer and not being able to fix it instantly." She paused, stirring honey into her tea. "Tennis taught me to control outcomes through will and work. Motherhood teaches me there are things I cannot control, no matter how hard. I try." In these unguarded moments, I glimpsed the complete picture of Serena Williams. Not just the champion, driven by unstoppable determination, but also a human navigating uncertainty, balancing perfectionism with self-compassion, and finding new definitions of strength in vulnerability. This dimension of her character wasn't separate from her greatness, it was integral to it. The same person who practiced at 4 a.m. and ruthlessly analyzed her performance also needed spaces to acknowledge doubt, process disappointment, and surrender to the things beyond her control. The fullness of her humanity didn't diminish her legendary status. It explained it. Chapter 10. The Departure. my 3-month contract extended to 4, but eventually my time in Serena's household came to its conclusion. On my final day, I completed the transition documents for my replacement and packed my belongings from the guest suite that had been my home. As I was performing my last checks, Serena asked me to join her in the garden, a meticulously designed space with native Florida plants that served as her thinking retreat. "I wanted to thank you personally," she said, as we walked along the stone path. "You integrated seamlessly into our household. That's not easy to do." I thanked her for the opportunity, adding that the experience had taught me more than I could express. She smiled knowingly. "You saw behind the curtain a bit, didn't you? More than most people get to see." I admitted that I had, including her early morning rituals that I'd accidentally discovered. Rather than being upset about this invasion of privacy, she nodded thoughtfully. "Those 4 a.m. sessions, they're my secret weapon, always have been." She stopped by a stone bench and sat, gesturing for me to join her. "People ask me all the time about physical training, nutrition, coaches. They want the visible, tangible secret to success. But the real work happens in those quiet moments. Training your mind to be even stronger than your body." She picked up a small stone from the garden path, turning it over in her hands. "This is why I still intimidate people, even when I'm trying not to. It's not my size or my serve or me grand slams. It's that they sense this internal foundation that's been built brick by brick, day by day, often at 4 in the morning when the world is still dark." She handed me the stone, smooth, solid, unassuming. "Take this. Whenever you doubt yourself or feel overwhelmed by expectations, remember what you saw here. Greatness isn't born. It's built in those moments nobody witnesses but you." As I prepared to leave, Serena handed me an envelope. "Don't open this until you're gone," she instructed. Later, in my hotel room, I opened it to find a handwritten letter of recommendation along with Asmol's journal, identical to the one I'd seen her use during her morning rituals. The first page contained a single handwritten quote: "The trophy is the visible part. The journey is the achievement." Under it, she had written, "Start at 4 a.m., not literally, unless you want to, but figuratively. Begin building your foundation before others are watching. That's where the real victory happens." I understood then what made Serena Williams different. It wasn't just her physical gifts or competitive fire, though those were remarkable. It was her recognition that the most important battles are won in private, that mental fortitude must be trained as systematically as any muscle, and that the foundation of greatness is laid when no applause is forthcoming. Her 23 Grand Slam trophies were merely the visible manifestations of invisible work, thousands of early mornings, countless hours of mental conditioning, decades of deliberate recovery, and an unwavering commitment to building strength from within. The world saw Serena Williams the champion, the fashion icon, the business mogul. I had been privileged to see the architect behind it all, the woman who understood that true greatness isn't what you achieve under the spotlight, but what you build in the darkness, one 4 a.m. session at a time.